No headphone can capture the complex bourbon and butter flavor of my actual timber.
It is Thanksgiving week, which means that the MLB winter meetings are just around the corner. In this episode, we'll discuss the Yankees' trade chips as they hopefully look to do some wheeling and dealing to fix the roster. We'll review the strengths and weaknesses of the current roster, look for log jams, explore the pitching and prospect depth, and make a final prediction as to which players get moved this winter. This is NYY Recaps.
Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
New York City.
Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back in.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Mid-beginning of hot stove, I guess you could say. We're just getting started with the hot stove season. We've already had a couple of moves. Yankees hired Brad Ausmus today as bench coach, 18-year big league career, former manager of the Tigers, took the Tigers to the division championship in his first season as a manager. So welcome to Mr. Brad Ausmus. A lot to get to tonight. We're going to talk about our side of any trades that may unfold, what we'd be willing to give up, what we would have to give up, the different areas of depth on our team. But the opening salvos of the Hot Stove League have indeed been fired. Aaron Nola was one of the Yankees' targets. He re-signed with the Philadelphia Phillies and kind of set the market. $172 million over 7 years. So, very nice payday for Nola. My first thought was that former Yankee Jordan Montgomery, who's also a free agent, just got very rich because there's no way, given the way he's thrown the ball over the last couple of years, that he doesn't get $150 million. Lance Lynn also signed with the Cardinals, and the Yamamoto negotiations have begun in earnest. We got a super chat here from Man with Many Names. On the Dangly Doodle Farm, there lived a wise old octopus. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You're fired.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the dono, man. All right, so we'll talk about the free agents and Yamamoto and stuff another day. But this is kind of a low-quality free agent year in general. I mean, you got Bellinger, you got a couple of the big-name players like Ohtani. But for the most part, this is going to be a year where Brian Cashman is going to have to make some trades to improve the team. But you never want to empty out the farm completely. So I think there's potential that the Yankees trade away not only some prospects, but maybe some established guys as well. Cashman has already made one trade. He shipped Jake Bauers off to the Brewers for a couple of low-level minor league prospects. Lotto ticket type of guys. I know one of them had a very good second half last year. I think you're going to see the same thing potentially happen with Kyle Higashioka, but we will get to that. And usually we take a lot of comments throughout the show, but tonight is more of a complex episode. There's a lot of moving pieces, so I'll take comments after each section. There's going to be 4 main sections that we're going to look at. Part 1 is who's definitely coming back. The second piece that we're going to cover is the organizational depth at various positions. And then we'll talk about the top trade chips given what we've established in the first 2 sections. And then the final part will be me giving my prediction for who I think ends up traded this winter. So first things first, let's talk about, in my view, who's definitely coming back, because there are pieces that are vital to the present and future success of this team. And there's some people who have some bad contracts that are definitely coming back. So let's take a look at it. All right, so every New Year's Eve, my buddy Rob Thompson, he and I have a text exchange. And usually I'll initiate it. I'll say, Happy New Year, buddy. And he always, without fail, says, good luck this year, Derek. We're not all going to make it. And I feel the same way right around this time when the Yankees filled out their 40-man roster every year, because this is not going to be the 40-man roster when the season begins. Now, there's always a few guys who are definitely not going to come back. There's a few guys who are kind of up in the air. And then there's just a core contingent of players, some of whom have good seasons, some of whom have bad seasons, that are just absolutely going to be back. You'll see the highlights on the screen of what I'm viewing as the core of next year's team, guys who are definitely coming back. Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole, obviously two premier players on the team. They're a no-brainer. They're not going anywhere, no trade clauses, all that stuff. If Judge stays healthy all year, he tacks on another 4 to 5 wins on the Yankees win total automatically, just because he's that type of player. 2-3 home run games last season. Guy's unbelievable. I saw someone suggested trading Garrett Cole the other day and got laughed off the internet. Look, I see where he's coming from. You know, at a glance, it makes sense. He's your most valuable asset. You need a lot of pieces. Any team that's one pitcher away would probably be willing to trade, tons of prospects or pay hand over fist to acquire him. But he's got a no trade clause. And even if he didn't, the Yankees are still trying to win. And he wants to finish his career as a Yankee. So overall, I'm going to have to just say that was a bad take.
Just a bit outside.
Carlos Rodon can't go anywhere because he's also got a no-trade clause. And even if he didn't, you'd be selling at a huge loss. The diagnosis of the chronic back injury, the regression in not only his stats, a 6.85 ERA in 14 starts, but his stuff, the metrics, showed that his stuff was way down. You got to hope that he learns how to pitch this winter because that two-pitch combo is not going to work with his diminished skill set. In the words of Charles Barkley, he was terrible. He was terrible. Yankees are committed to Volpe at shortstop. Look, low batting average 209. Nobody's going to pretend it wasn't awful. But 2020 season, Gold Glove as a rookie, not bad for having played less than a month at AAA and basically not having a hitting coach for the first half of his first season in the major leagues because they had to fire Dylan Lawson. He didn't know what he was doing. So I think he's going to have a more productive season next year. I don't know if he's ever going to be a 280 guy, but, if he hits 250 and plays solid defense, maybe tacks on a few more home runs and a few more stolen bases, that'll play. But anyway, he's going nowhere. Austin Wells, I think, earned a spot next year. He absolutely hits bombs. As the old-timers say, when he hits them, they stay hit. Behind the plate, he looked solid enough to me. I didn't see anything glaring. I've always said that with a good catcher, you don't even really notice them because they're just not making mistakes. They're just receiving, keeping the running game in check. Not a lot of guys running on him. A good catcher should go pretty much unnoticed, and that's pretty much how I felt with Austin Wells back there. Jason Dominguez, you're seeing him on your screen right now, injured, but he got to the majors so fast and made such an immediate impact that I think you can stop looking at him as a prospect and look at him as the Yankees' 21-year-old starting center fielder. I think he's off the table for trades. He would be if I was the GM. I'm sure the Padres will ask for him, but a Juan Soto trade at this point with 1 year left on his contract will not require Jason Dominguez. So there's going to be some wiggle room there. On the pitching staff side of things, Nestor Cortez is a lock to be back in the rotation. He's cheap. He's high risk. He's high risk. Sorry, no. Well, I guess he's high risk. He's not a high financial risk, but he's got a high reward if he is able to stay healthy. He had back-to-back seasons with a sub-3 ERA. So I think that trading him now when his value is low after a couple of shoulder injuries, probably a bad business decision. So I don't think he's going anywhere. Right now, I have Mike King as a lock for the rotation. Again, he's affordable, and he was dominant as a starting pitcher. Some of the best, filthiest stuff in the league as a starting pitcher. And I think that the Yankees are going to probably be asked about him, but I can't see them moving him. And again, I don't think it's going to take Mike King to get Juan Soto. Although if that's, you also don't let Mike King hold up a Juan Soto trade, I don't think. Anyway, that leaves one spot in the rotation, probably a free agent. The Yankees are heavily involved in Yamamoto, but Jordan Montgomery is also a possibility, will probably be cheaper than Yamamoto. So we'll see how that shakes out. Rizzo is coming back, although he might not be a guy who stays around long if he doesn't show that he's recovered from that concussion syndrome. DJ LeMahieu is coming back. He's got a few years left on his contract that I don't think anybody's going to take, even though he did seem to bounce back in the second half under Sean Casey. And John Carlos Stanton's contract is obviously unmovable. Along with his no-trade clause, he's coming back. I do think if he has another tough season, though, he could be a candidate for a massive DFA. But everyone else pretty much has to be considered on the bubble at this point. Yankees won 82 games, and they desperately need more offense. Brian Cashman said he's looking for 2 left-handed outfielders. So this team needs to get back into the mold of those teams that won. Left-handed balance throughout the order. Can't rely on nothing but right-handed power hitters any longer. Despite having a pretty good year, I don't think Gleyber Torres is necessarily guaranteed a spot. Although it's more likely than not, in my opinion, that he returns. Oswald Peraza, not guaranteed a spot either. I think, though, he is probably the leading candidate to play third base. Everson Pereira, not guaranteed a spot. And I think his status as a prospect still gives him trade value, but I don't think he showed enough in September that you can really pencil him in. There is a clear log jam at catcher. We're going to have to trade a couple of guys. There's a number of pitching prospects, and as we mentioned, only one real open spot at the major league level. So, like it or not, there is some roster reconstruction happening. It is what it is.
It's what it is.
What it is.
It's what it is.
What it is.
It's what it is.
Dr. Hitskins wants switch hitters. I 100% agree.
I wholeheartedly agree.
So, Victor Epic Warrior says Candelario is better than Peraza, and that may very well be true. I think a lot of it's going to come down to what the Yankees end up spending this year. They're going to go ahead and try and land Soto and Yamamoto. If you take on that $60 million, I can't see them going out and signing a Candelario. I would think they would go with one of the young kids at that point. And he also says goodbye, Higgy. I think Higgy is definitely getting dealt. And then that deaf dude says, I would love for the Yankees to trade for Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds just signed a very team-friendly contract, so I can't imagine that happening. So let's talk a little bit about the Yankees' strengths and weaknesses as a roster. If you put yourself in Brian Cashman's shoes, you want to make deals in a way that you don't deplete your chances of winning, you don't deplete your roster in vital areas, you don't rob Peter to pay Paul. You want to deal from areas of depth. As you can see, Yankees have a lot of catching depth. They have 4 areas that I want to talk to in regards to their depth. The catchers, the infield depth, the outfield depth, and the starting pitching depth. Let's begin with catchers. So right now on the 40-man roster, they have 6 catchers. Higashioka, Carlos Narvaez, Augustin Ramirez, Ben Rortvedt, Jose Trevino, and Austin Wells. You're not going to carry 6 catchers on the 40-man. I'm sorry. So some of those guys are going to go. Austin Wells, as I mentioned, probably going to be the starter. You've got a decision to make about who starts the most games. He's a left-handed bat that they developed, first-round draft pick. They like him. Again, looked good back there, hits bombs, going to be a fan favorite, love his mustache. He's a lock. He's coming back. Jose Trevino won a platinum glove, but then got hurt. Ben Rortvedt had a really good rapport with Garrett Cole at the tail end of his Cy Young season. You got Kyle Higashioka, who is somewhat of a fan favorite, but most people are acknowledging that, there's just not room for him. They just recently added Augustin Ramirez to the 40-man roster, and he is no joke. 22 years old, destroyed high A this year. He was there for 27 games. He hit .384 with 9 home runs and then got promoted to Double A, where he struggled a little bit. Ben Rice was also at Double A. He is not on the 40-man roster, but he's considered a legitimate hitting prospect. As far as position players go, their organizational depth is better at infield than at outfield. IKF is a free agent, so that clears a little bit of the logjam. But you've got Volpe locked in at shortstop, Gleyber Torres in the last year of his contract. You have to make the decision if you're going to re-sign him. You got DJ LeMahieu, who can play the corner spots and maybe fill in a little bit at second base, although he's probably not as mobile as he used to be to play second base on a regular basis. He did have a nice bounce back second half, as I mentioned. Peraza, probably the best defensive shortstop in the organization, but he's going to probably play third base as of right now. I'm not convinced the Yankees won't trade him. I'm not convinced the Yankees will trade him. He's kind of one of those up-in-the-air guys, like we mentioned earlier. Didn't quite show enough offensively that you can definitely pencil him in, but he is a good defender. Oswaldo Cabrera played more outfield than infield last season. I think he's going to be the new IKF, kind of play all over the place, fill in at all three outfield positions, fill in the infield if you need him, switch hitter. He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife. If he could just hit a little bit better, he'd be incredibly valuable. Their depth extends into the minor leagues. Trey Sweeney, 23 years old, first-round draft pick, probably going to make the major leagues in the next couple of years. He's kind of a late bloomer, got a good swing, but somebody might want to deal for him because the Yankees, he's blocked. He's blocked by the shortstop currently, Anthony Volpe. Roderick Arias, I view him as probably one of their top trade pieces. He's 19 years old, shortstop. He was the number one international prospect a couple of years ago. He broke his pinky and missed a lot of the season, but he was off to a great start. Switch hitter, good defender, enormous potential. Got $4 million as a signing bonus. He was compared to Wander Franco. Now you hope he's not compared to Wander Franco, but off the field stuff anyway. But he's a legit prospect, and I think teams are going to ask about him. You wish that he had gotten a full minor league season so you could get a look at what those numbers would be like. As far as the pitching side goes, there have been some reports that the main asking price for Juan Soto is MLB-ready pitching, and the Yankees definitely have some of that. Like I said, I don't think they're going to move Cole, Rodon, Cortez, or King, but Clark Schmidt could definitely step into somebody's rotation right now. The same can be said for Luis Gil, who I think Yankees fans have mostly forgotten about, but who seems like he could be a very solid major league pitcher. Got fantastic stuff, triple-digit swing and miss stuff. Johnny Brito is ready to take the next step. So is Yoendris Gomez. So is Randy Vasquez. If you want to dig down deeper into our pitching well, we got Clayton Beeter, we got Chase Hampton, Drew Thorpe. All of these guys are very nice prospects, and it's not going to take all of them to get Juan Soto. So some combination of those guys, and we'll talk about my predictions later on, but I definitely want to hear your predictions in the chat. So when you look at the roster as a whole, the Yankees are strong at catcher, strong in pitching depth, and if they sign a free agent like Yamamoto, that even extends their pitching depth a little bit further. So now that we've looked at where the Yankees stack up as an organization, and we know where they can deal from as regards to their depth, let's move on to identify who would be our top chips that we would use and who would be the trade targets. Maybe you guys can have some fun in the comments putting together some trade scenarios.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Doug Rouse says, what do you go for first at the Thanksgiving Day table? I love cranberries. I love cranberry sauce, but first thing has got to be the mashed potatoes. I mean, first of all, when my mom makes mashed potatoes, they're amazing. They're ridiculous. But I'm just a mashed potato fan, like loaded with butter, with salt, just thick, pour some gravy over it. I'm a mashed potato guy. What's odd about me and Thanksgiving, I don't like turkey. I've never liked turkey. I don't mind deli sliced turkey, but just like cold turkey cut off of a bird, I've never digged poultry before. All right, so let's talk about the top trade chips and targets. And Dr. Hitskin says, love Cortez, but don't trust his durability. Got to say, I agree with that. Matt Sheridan says, thanks for taking that picture with me and my friends at Yankee Stadium. Hey, appreciate that. So, if I were the GM, and I would go through our organization and kind of pick out the guys that, I want to dangle in front of other teams, the best trade chips that we got, and I would be aggressive this year. these are the guys that I kind of came up with. On the pitching side, I think Drew Thorpe probably has some of the most value. Obviously, a tremendous year in the minor leagues. Mostly a changeup and breaking ball guy. I've heard one guy, Kyle Glazer from Baseball America, compare him to Chris Paddock, who came up with the Padres, never quite lived up to his minor league numbers. A guy with a good changeup, good breaking ball, but not much of a fastball. I haven't seen Thorpe pitch in person or on TV, so I can't tell you what his fastball is. But if that's true, that kind of lends me to believe that the Padres wouldn't necessarily be interested in getting another Craig Paddock since they gave up on the last one. But another guy they could be interested in, Chase Hampton. Good fastball, 97, can touch 98. Very good strikeout numbers in the minor leagues. 22 years old, could advance quickly. Clark Schmidt and Luis Heel are both ready to step into any rotation, as I mentioned. I think Luis Heel has, honestly, a higher ceiling than Clark Schmidt. But, I know the metrics love Clark Schmidt. And I would have no issue trading either one of them or both of them in a trade for Juan Soto. On the offensive side, since we're pulling Dominguez off the table and we're viewing him as our center fielder and not really as a prospect anymore, we don't need him for 1 year Soto. We can deal some of our other talent. That leaves guys like Oswald Peraza, Spencer Jones, top prospects. I think the Yankees are going to try and hang on to Jones just because of the lefty Aaron Judge comparisons. Not every team has had success working with tall hitters. It's not easy. The Yankees have shown they're able to do it. So it would make sense that they kind of hang on to Spencer Jones, turn him into a real prospect. I could see them definitely parting ways with Everson Pereira, with Roderick Arias. Arias, ton of upside, obviously hurt this season. The Yankees might want to see what he can do over a full minor league season before they consider dealing him, but you don't let him hold up a Juan Soto deal. Same thing with Trey Sweeney, blocked at shortstop by Volpe. Could see him being part of some kind of a deal. Ben Rice had a good minor league season, but not on the 40-man roster. Yankees are stacked. Could see him being part of a deal. As far as trade targets go, obviously there's Juan Soto. He's mission priority number one, in my opinion. But they're not. The Padres are not going to start breaking down the team this soon after their owner died. So I would think that you probably wait till the winter meetings to trade Juan Soto. And right now there's no rush because they're going to trade him. It sounds like it's 100%. Brendan Donovan is somebody who fits perfectly. I could actually see a trade of Gleyber Torres to the Cardinals for Brendan Donovan and a prospect or two that could help refill the coffers. The Cardinals have been active this winter. They signed Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson to fill out the rotation. Torres would be an offensive upgrade from Donovan, but I think Donovan would fit into what the Yankees' offense needs a little bit better. Contact, lefty, and solid defender. If the Yankees trade Peraza, then Brendan Drury is somebody that could also be a trade target. Max Kepler had a very nice bounce-back year. I know there was a lot of talk before the season about trading for him. A lot of people said no. I was one of them. Ended up having a good year. 260, 24 home runs with the Twins, 121 OPS plus. Jeff McNeil for the Mets could be available. Rumored that he is on the trade block, and if he is, he's somebody that the Yankees should look at. He's a contact hitter. Hit 270 this year, but 326 the year before. Lefty in Yankee Stadium, again. And he's a guy who can spray the ball into the gap. I could see him picking up a lot of opposite field doubles. Had a much better second half than first half this year. 291 average after the All-Star game. 253 in the first half. Anthony Santander. Or Santander. I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. WNBC. He is rumored to be on the market. And I've seen his name thrown out there by some people in the chat. Dr. Hitskins especially has mentioned it a bunch of times. But he's definitely a good player. 61 home runs over the last 2 seasons. Not much of a batting average guy. So fits right in. All right, so before we get to my final verdict, I want to take a few more comments, and then I'll make my predictions as to who gets dealt. I moved my water from one side to the other. Now I keep spinning this way. I feel like John Travolta in that meme where he walks into the room and doesn't know where to look. I keep turning this way to find my water, and it's not there. All right, let's take some comments. Izzy says, Ben Rice's swing and stance reminds me of Greg Bird's. He's kind of got that classic lefty. I like it. Yeah, William Henry says Padres might wait until January to trade Soto so they can look for the best deal they can get. Might even be early February. I mean, it makes no sense for them to rush at the first deal. If they really do have to unload some salary, though, you'd like to know what kind of budget you have to work with headed into the winter meeting. So if you can take those $30 million off the books, or take 30 plus whatever, Jake Cronenworth comes with, or whoever you take on, I could see that happening. Let's see here. Victor Epic Warrior says, what about trading DJ LeMahieu? I don't think anybody's going to trade for him at this point. I really don't. He does have a limited no trade clause. He can be traded to some people. And Matt Sheridan says, do you think they'll trade Peraza? Well, let's go to the final official predictions, and we'll talk it over. All right, so right off the bat, I picked the 5 players that are most likely to be traded, in my opinion. And they are Kyle Higashioka, Ben Rortvedt, Luis Gil, Everson Pereira, and Clark Schmidt. So when we think about who could be moved, we have to think about who would replace that player if they got traded. I think the Yankees are ultimately going to roll with the infield they've got: Oswald Peraza at third base, Volpe at shortstop, Glaber at second, and Anthony Rizzo at first base. DJ LeMahieu goes back to being the utility guy who can give Rizzo some time off at first base and occasionally give Peraza a day off at third base. And if you need to give Volpe a day off at shortstop, Peraza can slide over to shortstop and play a very good shortstop. So I'm kind of the opinion I don't like to move guys around like that, but that's part of the modern game. Guys move around. And Peraza's so good at short that it's one time where I wouldn't mind having somebody fill in who's a regular position player. Normally I would say get a third baseman, play him at third base, don't move him off of there, and then have a utility play. But, Oswaldo Cabrera could also fill in at shortstop if you need to give Volpe a day off. So ultimately I think they're going to hang on to Peraza. That leaves the catching depth and the pitching depth as the main areas the Yankees can deal from. And luckily for the Yankees, or perhaps by design, those are 2 areas that teams need right now. Catching depth is thin in the game right now, and pitching depth is always thin in the game, and there's a lot of injuries to pitchers lately. So Kyle Higashioka, sorry, buddy, you are getting traded, as is one of the other catchers who saw big league time last year, either Jose Trevino or Ben Rortvedt. And I think the final decision is going to come down to Garrett Cole as much as Brian Cashman. Who would Garrett Cole want to throw to in a hypothetical Game 7 scenario? I think ultimately Trevino is probably the guy that the Yankees are going to keep because he won a platinum glove 2 years ago. And since the major trade market involves Juan Soto, and they're asking for starting pitching back, I think the Yankees are actually in a really good position to get him. Luis Gil and Clark Schmidt in a trade, there's not many teams that can offer you 2 cost-controlled, young, and quality starting pitchers like that. And then you can also supplement the loss of Soto with an Everson Pereira. That would be the move that I would offer as like my, semi-final deal. Maybe you can tack on a couple of, younger prospects, things like that. But I don't think anybody's going to beat it. But if somebody does put together a package that is somewhat rival that, you can throw in Roderick Arias. I don't think it's going to hurt the Yankees in the near future to be without Roderick Arias. He might become a star, but he would put that trade over the top as kind of like that. All right, we're giving you a top international prospect for 1 year of a guy, plus good quality pitching. I might be overpaying, too. So I think those are the guys that are going to be dealt. Again, one more time, Higashioka, probably Rortvedt, Luis Gil, Everson Pereira, and Clark Schmidt. And ladies and gentlemen, that is my prediction. Let's wrap.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.
I gotta get out of here!
We do have one voicemail to play. Looked the wrong way for my water again.
You gotta go.
Thanks to everybody who has tuned in tonight. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And William Henry says, please no Manuel Margot. I don't know if that's going to be a real issue. It just doesn't sound like something that's real. You know, he's an injury-prone right-handed outfielder. That's what the Yankees need to get away from right now. Dr. Hitskin says, if the Padres say Cronenworth's contract you must take, then, baby, I'd take it. And then this is a voicemail that we got that I think makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are going to be asking this question.
Hi, this is Don. I'm just wondering, while the Yankees are going after Soto, why don't they hit up on Machado also? I mean, I just heard the owner died, and they're going to probably strip the team down anyway. I'd love to have Machado and Soto.
So I would love to have Machado and Soto also, but as much as I like Machado as a player, the time to pick him up was when he was a free agent. No sense paying for the downhill slide over the last decade of his career. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Man with many names says you forgot my super chat. I didn't forget it. I saw a few of them come in. They didn't make a lot of sense or add much to the conversation, but I appreciate the dono. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time.